Welcome to My Sew Bliss. Today I'm super excited to be partnering up with Baby Lock sewing machines and bringing you another sewing tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make the perfect t-shirt dress, and I'm going to be showing you how to do that on the Baby Lock Zest, which is this awesome machine right back here. This is the perfect machine for beginners, but is also such a great travel machine or just everyday machine that you can move around your house. It's lightweight and compact, so it's just really nice to have around, and actually has lots of really great features. So even if you're an intermediate seamstress, this is always nice to have on hand. I know I like to travel with it and just take it all over my house, depending on where my kids are. So I'll put a link down below where you guys can go and check out the Baby Lock Zest. Now today we are going to be making, like I said, a t-shirt dress, and we're going to be making this using a free pattern from a company called Love Notions. I love all of their patterns, and this one I got, they were giving them away for free, and I believe they still are for free on their website, lovenotions.com. I'll put a link down below for them. And this is the Laundry Day tee. So it can also be a t-shirt, it can be a dress, it can be a tunic. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make the dress, but really the only difference is the length. You can also change up the sleeve length. You can make it tank top, quarter sleeve, long sleeve, whatever you want. So this dress slash t-shirt is very versatile and a really awesome pattern to have around. And it is a very, very fast make. So I'm super excited to be showing you how to do it today. So first you're gonna need that pattern. If you need help printing it out, I will put a link down below for one of my videos, which is how to print out patterns from home. And then I also have another one on how to print out patterns, sending them to a printer or a copy shop, something like that. So I'll put both of those videos down below. It's a lot easier to print from home than you might think, so make sure you go and check that out. Other than the pattern, all you're going to need is then some knit fabric, some stretchy, nice drapey fabric that's going to look really nice as a dress. I'm excited about this one. I got it from Joann's last year, and I've been waiting for the perfect project for it, and I think this is going to be a really fun one, especially for springtime. So other than that, all you're going to need is your basic sewing supplies. So let's get started. So once you have your pattern printed and cut out, you do need to figure out which pattern pieces you need. And if you're making the dress like me, all you need is a dress back, a dress front, and then a sleeve if you're doing a sleeve, and a neckband. So just kind of check on that. Don't let it confuse you too much. When I'm cutting out my knit fabrics, I really like to use a rotary cutter. So then I just use my pattern weights and lay them down on my fabric and grab my rotary cutter, and then I can just start cutting, and it's a lot easier than doing pins and scissors. Once you have all of your pieces cut out, then we're going to take our back piece and our front piece and open them up with the right sides together. So I'll place, this is my back piece, and I'm matching up the shoulder seams first. So I'm just going to place these right on top of each other, and I will just pin those shoulder seams in place, and then we're going to head over to the sewing machine and sew them together. Over at the sewing machine, the first thing that we need to do before we start sewing is actually change our stitch. Because we're using a knit fabric that stretches, we don't want to use just a straight stitch, because when that fabric stretches, it could break. So we want to do a zigzag stitch or a stretch stitch. I just like doing the zigzag stitch. So I'm going to put it to C. Just make sure that's in line, and then I like to turn down the length a little bit when I am doing a zigzag stitch, just to give it a little bit tighter of a stitch. And then I'll just go up to the shoulder seams that we pinned and start stitching. And for this, we're going to be using a 3/8 inch seam allowance, which is that first line outside of the presser foot on this machine. So I'll start stitching and then do a back stitch, and then keep going around.
then go on to the next one. Once we have both shoulder seams sewn, next we're going to put in our sleeve pieces. And for this one, you want to make sure you're putting in the right sleeve in the right spot. So look at your notches that you created. I just do little slits for my notches. So there's a single notch on this side and a double notch on this side. So that means it's going to go on this side because this is my back piece and this is my front piece. A double notch always goes with the back pieces. So first I'm going to line up that shoulder seam with my top notch, and we're just going to flip this over so it's right sides together, and I will pin that in place. And then I like to bring this edge around and pin the edge up so that it lines up with the edge of the shirt or the dress, and pin that in place. And then I do the same on the other side. So it looks a little wonky, but if pinned correctly, it's all going to work out and be okay. So I'm not too worried about that. Okay, and I just like to do those 3 pins. If you feel like you need to, you can do one more in the middle. But when we get over to the sewing machine, it's just nicer to kind of ease that in as you go. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. Once over at the sewing machine, I'm just going to start at one of those edges. And again, we're doing 3/4 inch. And I'll put it down on my presser foot and then make sure the rest of my fabric is starting to line up. And I'll start sewing, do a back stitch, and then I'll continue going and kind of just maneuver that sleeve as I go. Once you have that sleeve sewn, you just kind of flip it out, make sure it's all sitting right and that you caught it right. And I always like to give it a good iron. It helps with this waviness. Even if you just press it with your fingers, that can help. Just press that out. And now I'm gonna go and do the other sleeve the same exact way. Once you have both of those sleeves sewn in, it kind of just looks like this, a bunch of fabric. But we're gonna take them and put the front and the back pieces right sides together. So I'm just gonna fold it in half and line up those side seams. And I'm going to take mine and I'm going to start pinning the side seams. I'm going to start right here with my sleeve. And then I like to pin the seams that we just sewed so that those will match up. And now I'm ready to take it over to the sewing machine. So over at the sewing machine, I'm just going to start at one of my sleeves, and this is our side seams. We're just sewing our side seams all the way down. And this we're going to stitch at 3/8 of an inch again, and just stitch all the way down the dress. For our next step, we're going to set the dress off to the side for a moment, and we're going to take the neckband piece. And I am doing the scoop neck, so it's going to be a little different if you are doing a V-neck. But what you're going to do for the scoop neck is take your piece and open it up and put your ends right sides together. And I'm going to go over and stitch those down. Once we have that stitched, we are then going to take the neckband and fold it in half with the wrong sides together. And you can kind of just press that with your fingers, but it is really helpful if you go and press it with an iron as well. Just make sure you're using the right temperature for your fabric so you don't melt it. Next, I'm going to take the neckband and divide it into quarters. So I just take the seam right here and pull it off to the side, and then find the halfway point of that, and I put a pin in it. And then I put that pin with that seam and lay that flat, and then put a pin in those edges. Now we're going to take our dress and we're going to find the quarter marks on the dress as well. So I just take the front center and the front back, and I'm going to hold those and then put pins in those. And then I'll match those up to find my other 2 points. Because the front neckline is going to be bigger than the back neckline, so you don't want to just match it up at those shoulder seams. And then once you have those all marked, you're going to take your neckband, put it right sides together, lining up your raw edges. And your center back is going to be lined up with the seam we created for the neckband. So I'm going to pin that in place first. And then I'll just put my quarter pieces lined up with the piece in the dress and their quarter piece. And I'll just line that up all the way around. Once I have those all lined up, I'm going to take that over to my sewing machine and sew that neckband on. So let me show you how to do that. Once over at your sewing machine, I just like to take it and line it up right before one of my pins. We're going to be sewing at 3/8 of an inch. And I'm making sure everything's lined up before I get started. And then I can start sewing, and I do back stitch. And then I'll just continue going all the way around. But I'm going to be stretching this neckband just slightly. Make sure you're not actually stretching the neck of the dress, but just the neckband. After you have that neckline sewn on, I like to turn it right sides out and make sure it was stitched properly and there's no tucks or bunching. And then it's nice to give it a little press before we do our top stitching around the neckline. So I'm going to go ahead and press my neckline, and then I'll meet you over at the sewing machine. To do our top stitching, I'm actually going to change this back to 2.5 and then back to selector A, and that's going to put my needle right in the middle so that I can have a nice straight top stitch. And I just like to do this one because I like the look of it best. You could also do a double needle or even a zigzag stitch. And I just go around right inside of the band that we just put on. I am stitching down that seam allowance, and it will just hold it in place, and it just gives it a really great finish. So I'm actually going to start in the back. It's always nice, especially if you have a back stitch or if it starts messing up at the beginning. So I'm just going to go close to that edge and just making sure I'm catching that seam allowance underneath. After you've done your top stitching, if it has a little bit of waviness, just give it a really good pressing and it will lay flat again and look really nice. I just really love how professional that looks afterwards. Just turned out really nicely. So now our final thing to do is going to be hemming our sleeves and the bottom of the skirt. And these are done the same way. And again, I like to use an iron for this. So if your fabric is okay with an iron, I suggest using it as well. And if you need to, turn your shirt or dress wrong sides out. But I just keep it like this and measure about 1 inch. And I'll go over to my iron and press that so it lays flat and is in place really nice. And I can also pin it. And then I will take it over to the sewing machine and I'll show you how I will stitch that down as well. So I'm actually going to go iron this first and pin it, and then I'll meet you over at the sewing machine. Once you have your sleeves pressed and your bottom hem, you can have that pressed too. I take it over to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch it at 5/8 of an inch to 6/8 of an inch probably. And I like to start at the seam at the back And I'm actually just going to do a straight stitch. I'm not too worried about it stretching over my arms. I don't think it's going to need to stretch that much. If you feel like you're going to have to stretch a lot, you might want to use a stretch stitch for this, or something like a double needle stitch, but I'm just going to use a regular straight stitch. And I'm just going to go all the way around, making sure I'm catching that hem underneath.
Once you are all done hemming the bottom of your dress and your sleeves, you are all done with your t-shirt dress. I hope you guys loved this tutorial. I hope your dress or t-shirt turned out really awesome. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'll make sure to put more pictures of me in the dress. Hopefully I can do like a little photo shoot, spring, good weather outside, later on. So I'll make sure to put those on my blog. Also make sure to check out the Baby Lock Zest. I'll have all that information down below as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!